We grew up in a Christian cult that shaped the way we saw God, people, and even ourselves. Leaving our church wasn't easy, but it led us to something better: truth, freedom, and healing. The McMaster's Chronicles is a place where we tell our story, and hopefully a place for others who've walked through spiritual abuse to feel seen, understood, and not alone. We talk about abuse, recovery, rebuilding faith, and the messy, beautiful process of learning how to live again. You'll also find the everyday stuff: our dogs, cats, garden, and all the simple joys that remind us why life is worth rebuilding. This is the McMaster's Chronicles, our story of healing, honesty, and hope. Join us as we chronicle our life, because recovery is real, and so is redemption.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to McMaster's Chronicles. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Joy.
And we are going to continue our story. We've been talking a lot about the place that we left, the church, the organization, whatever you want to call it, and the hurt that we experienced in there, and, kind of all the different things for our whole life. We have 30 years worth of stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully this can help some of you if you're in similar situations or know somebody in a situation like this. And we also are trying to help those that are still in there. So we're trying to grow this channel. So if you like what you see, what you're watching, please subscribe, comment. That helps us get these videos out there more. Share them as much as you can. But just subscribe to that channel, and we would greatly appreciate it. But one of the big things that, because it was a church, it was a Baptist church, is,
but really it is a cult,
right? But it looks like a church
because it looks like a church.
Then they read the Bible, they preach, they talk about salvation, they talk about God, they talk about Jesus, and a lot of what they say is right in the sense of like the Bible, but then they use it for their own advantage. So that's where it gets really confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Super confusing. Because I got saved while I wasn't really a part of that church. I had left. So that was the only way, honestly, I know the Lord would save me, is because I was away from all of the confusion of that place.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, what do you want to say about, what's the first thing you want to say about it?
The main thing that would come up a lot would be, at least in me, and I think, but also it'd be intentionally from the pulpit, and then also from you at times, would be like,
what did I do? I'm just kidding.
No, it's not just you, it's me too.
I'm just kidding.
Where you would be enduring really hard, horrible things kind of all the time. But then being told you have to have a good countenance, and then if you don't have a good countenance, you're lost.
Mm-hmm.
So you're being always told that. So that's confusing. But
everything's a sign of you being lost in there. Yeah. Anything wrong you do.
So, but something I would say is that, but they preach the gospel. And so that would even be from the pulpit of you can't find a place that preaches the unadulterated. That's a word they would use a lot. Mm-hmm. Unadulterated word.
The real Jesus is preached there, not
the real
places.
Jesus. But what's so crazy is it is adulterated to fit their maniacal rants. Mm-hmm. But so they would kind of be like, well, if God's real, and they're saying things that agree with God, sometimes, but it's hard to know which things are actually biblical. Then what? How can this be bad? It's a question that people out here still ponder. Some people refuse to call it a cult. Some people refuse to speak out about it because they still consider it a biblical organization. So they're it runs the gamut. So it can be a real stumbling block for people when there's even a culty word of stumbling block, because they would always use that word,
Yeah,
stumbling block.
they would.
But so that's basically what this video is about, is like, but the gospel is preached here, how can it be bad?
Exactly.
And it's kind of like that thought of like, well, how can it be bad? Then maybe I'm the problem.
Right.
And so that's a real thing that I think it's appropriate for us to contend with and to talk about and discuss openly. I can tell you, like, we have probably close to 50 videos now, and like the contents of those videos are the reasons why it is a bad non-church place. But
because
it is confusing.
Very.
Yep. Why would the gut? And so then, why would God allow it? Sorry, we're getting deep, but this is relevant content here. Why would God allow his name to be used in this manner in our lives?
And like something I say for that, like, because that is a question, the way that I've kind of dealt with it is like, the Bible does say his word doesn't return void. Mm-hmm. Right? And so even though they twisted so many things, used things, the one thing I'll give them is they actually read the Bible. Now,
sometimes,
sometimes they go on like a whole message and not even read it, or they just read one little thing. But you would hear the Bible through church or through your house or through something. And so God then, I know in my life, it was like he did the work. I remember whenever I honestly had to leave the church. I left the church. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And that's whenever it really became a thing between me and God. And God was convicting me. God was showing me my sin. God was doing that. But he did use like the fact that I knew the Bible. I knew the 10 Commandments. I knew those things. So he could use his word that I knew to then he deal with me. I really still to this day believe he had to get me out of there to not, I think that they were a stumbling block for me actually ever coming to know Jesus. So he got me out of there. And yes, I did talk to one of the pastors when I came back, but it was more just because like, I didn't know really what was going on. And basically it was like, I did all of the discussion up into the point where I prayed to be saved. And so like, even though God basically, he was like, even though they're going to blaspheme my name like this and use that, I can still work in people's lives because I'm God. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, now I still think too that he is giving the fact that they're still here, the fact that I feel like even when you listen to their messages now, it's like they're talking to themselves now that you know things. And it's like, I believe God is speaking to them, telling them what they're doing wrong, how they need to stop. And then they go and tell everybody else. Yeah. And I'm like, the Lord is merciful. He is giving them chances, but they are turning it and putting it on somebody else when they need to look at what God's speaking to them. Yeah. So I believe that that's happening, but God does give free will.
And I think like, I wrote notes about this, and something like, just because they use the gospel doesn't mean they like actually believe the gospel.
Right.
So like, think about like politicians. They will champion a cause and talk all about and say they believe all in this cause. And yet you see how they vote in the House, or maybe you see kind of like where their funding comes from. And the funding is antithetical to the cause. Yeah. Well, this is like not something that's like new in the world. Mm-mm. And to kind of like, I think there's a real tendency, and this is why it's so dangerous when pastors do it, or people who claim to be pastors do it. It's because it's such like a whitewashing. Like a politician, now everybody knows politicians are corrupt. So that's like not like a super surprising thing that, maybe some people don't.
I know.
But that's common. Like
common
that's
knowledge.
Common sense. But like it's starting to get like, well, I wouldn't say that, but like, why would how could a pastor do that?
Right. Oh, I know exactly.
It's still kind of like is a slightly different standard. However, I will say a lot is being exposed about really bad pastors right now. But I think that's why it's harder to believe that a pastor would use the Bible to fulfill their control, their desires for control and domination of individuals.
And like one thing that I think that even this place would do or uses, like you see all these really bad stories of pastors and things that they've done or priests or whatever, and it's like really just explicitly bad. And so it's like, okay, well, these people didn't do those things.
Yeah, it's like it's more subtle, but then I would say over time it's become more overt.
It has become more overt.
But I'm just saying, worse, it's more overt.
It doesn't have to just be the big bads for it to be bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like I would think sometimes I'd be in there, it's like, well, you know, this is better than what I've seen happen before. Like it was even better than what I had growing up at times. Right. And so if we're comparing that,
then you think it's
it is better.
Yeah.
No, I would not use the word decent. But it is a better place. But what they use the gospel for is to control the masses. So like they would use it to cause fear, and you'd be fear of going to hell, fear of disappointing God, or like not being what God has called us to be. And then, but if you notice, they would always be able to determine you. They would always be able to assess you as a failure, you falling short. And then once they had successfully broken you, they would come back in with the Bible and they would say, why are you so sad? God forgives. So it'd be this very confusing switcheroo that they would do.
And it was like all used kind of in tandem. So you kind of knew after you were there long enough, you kind of knew what was coming. If you got to a certain level of bad or not complying or not repenting or not whatever, the next step was you're going to be called lost. Which, what does that mean? You are the outcast. You are bad. You are not involved in everything anymore. You're not accepted there. Regardless of what they said, that is the reality of what would happen. And so, like, but like you said, it's their standards. They got to deem whether you cared about something. They got to deem whether or not you were involved in something. Like I remember with one of the businesses I had, he really wanted me to be a part of, I remember something, but like he really wanted me to be a part of my dad's business so much. And like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it, because basically he said that I was Esau, and I was I was giving up my birthright for porridge or whatever. That my birthright was the business. That's how valuable this business was that my dad created.
But not really, because there's really the pastor marriage is through your dad.
So like, okay, the next day I'm like working, I'm crunching numbers, I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. And the pastor was like, no, you didn't care. You don't care. You didn't work enough. You didn't do enough. And it was all by his standards declaring I didn't do, because I didn't do I didn't go sample the product or whatever. All by their standards. But then what does that mean? It means that I'm this bad person, arrogant, selfish, I don't care about authority person, which then what does that mean? If you don't care about authority, you're lost. So there's all these like steps that you know are going to come.
Yeah.
And he even like called me out in front. He was like, he pointed to me. He was like, he's just a con man, a liar or whatever. And what is that guy going to do? He was just like, okay. He just kind of stood there.
But that is
like,
triangulation, because what is now that guy going to think of you?
Exactly.
Especially now that you're gone.
Right. Yeah, I know. But it's just like.
And so, like, you kind of are like, well, if this is what God wants, then you want to obey God.
Mm-hmm.
And you perceive what God wants through
them,
what the pastors are saying.
Yep.
But then, and do the pastors ever want you to go? Do the pastors ever want you to leave?
Yeah, no.
No. So then there's like leaving is being associated with not being saved, because everyone who leaves is somehow not saved.
Yep. Leaving. So another thing, there's just so many things that have happened. Another thing is, so one of the pastors, so somebody left a couple years ago who had done a lot of work at people's houses in the church. And one of the pastors was like, I'm not going to sue him because the Bible says not to sue your brother. The other pastor wanted to sue him. And that's because, so what does that tell me then? If one pastor is saying you don't sue because he's your brother, the other pastor is going to sue, and he knows why that first one isn't doing anything, then what does that tell me? This pastor doesn't believe he's saved, right? Mm-hmm. And so it then adds to the correlation of if you leave, you're lost. Because
that added it to you, for you.
Right. Yeah. That's just like things like that without even being spoken add to the if you leave, you're lost type of mindset. And I believed like if I left, I was going to hell.
And if the gospel is really preached there, why would you leave a gospel preaching church?
Exactly. Because God has got to bring you to something, not away from something.
That's what the pastor emeritus said to you. So this is like the circular reasoning that keeps you trapped in there if you're a believer.
I just want to say one more thing about that.
Oh, no.
Because like if God's bringing you to something, well, how are you ever going to know if God's bringing you to something? If the pastors are going to have to tell you what he's bringing 100%. You to.
This is where you have to see that it is really just control.
They're never going to
They're never going to say, I've received a word from the Lord.
No.
You need to go and be off in this place. No, they're going to be like, I received a word from the Lord that you need to receive more money. You need to get more money for me. That's going to be
that the word is here, and we're not. Y'all aren't actually caring and seeing it move forward.
Yeah. How many times are you going to hear that?
Oh, buddy, you're so precious.
It's very effective when you have not seen the patterns, but you need to start seeing the patterns to break free from it. But the real truth is that the real church, is all around us. Anyone who believes in God, been saved, born again, it's all around us. And there isn't anything that keeps them,
But they would even like talk about that. Like we, the people, are the church, right? So if we, the people, are the church, then why is it this certain community or this certain nonprofit organization? They kind of even like contradict themselves there, because
they contradict themselves.
I know. I'm just like, it's another place, because if we're the church, those people are also the church. We're all the church.
Yeah.
We should be able to interact and go there and be here, but no, you have to be there. But that's where they use the if God doesn't call you away from something, he calls you to something. And if you weren't being called to that other place, then
breaking news, you're not going to be called to another place in there, because they want you there, because you supply them with what they need.
Not only are you not going to be called, you're literally going to be cut off. Now go watch our isolation video, because you're literally going to be cut off from the outside world, from different people, from us, from other things. Like, you literally are going to believe that is the only place. And it's not the only place.
No, because the church is everywhere. Like, it's everywhere.
You are the church.
Yeah, you are
not
the church.
That congregation.
And that's just so good to know. It's just so good to know.
It really is. And that's just been like a big thing for us since leaving, is like, even in going to different churches and visiting and being parts of things, is really taking away that, like, we've got to be in this one place and this is it. And it's like, we are the church, they are the church, like the people of the church, and we can have fellowship with them as the body of Christ. This is like a very like big topic because this was one of the biggest things that kept me in there for so long.
Yes, it was.
It really is the biggest thing that kept me in there. And that we had another video of like our leaving story. Some of our first videos, if you go back and watch those, because I talk about some conversations that I had with the pastor emeritus, and whenever he questioned my salvation, and I know it was the Lord because it was like when I read that and I heard it, my first instinct is like, oh, this guy he knows, and if he says I'm whatever, then I'm going to go to hell. And I'm like, I don't want to go to hell. And I think I haven't told you that. We went and watched Deadpool and Wolverine out of all movies. And then that night,
we're going to hell because we saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
And then that night, I remember telling you, like, I got this message, and we were like, this is it. And then it wasn't quite yet. It was like the beginning of the end. But I knew in my spirit, I was like, I know what happened. I know I got saved. I know Jesus. I know the Lord. And so I responded to him, and I told him that. And then
you spent like
3 days,
the whole day, or like, especially when we went to Carowinds.
Yeah.
You were just telling him, no, I'm saved.
Yeah.
No, I'm saved.
Yeah.
No, I'm saved.
And like, he then played the victim in that in different ways, which you can go back and watch those videos. But that was just a big thing for me to not associate, not to take put the weight of that man's word above what God says, because.
But then it's hard to even know what God says, because
it is.
The Bible is
used against you
and preached from the pulpit. But that's where you have to look at other sources, other helps to know the truth. Yeah.
But even like in this specific topic, like if you, and you're going to have to help me with the verse here, but like, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord.
If you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord,
you'll be saved.
You'll be saved. Yeah.
And just that simplicity of it. And I was like, okay, because that's what happened. And so then you can't take that away. And he would always try to rewrite history. Yeah. He is the master of rewriting history, of making you feel like those things didn't happen. Like, he tried to erase my entire 10 years of being saved in my life here. He tried to erase as if none of it happened. And I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, you can't act like all of this was false now. I've not been living this lie, no, like, you can't do that. Just because you say that doesn't mean that's true. And so, I don't know, that was just a big thing. And now it's like, okay, that foundation, and now I can grow off of that and be free from that, like, weight of what he said about it. So anyway,
it's really important. So the reason why we discuss this is just sort of just what Jonathan was saying, is that it is a really critical point for him, of like the confusion of like, well, the gospel's preached here and it's real. Just to kind of like, to help you kind of disentangle your faith from them. And also to know that people lie like all the time. Like, people are liars. And even the lead pastor approaches the world that way. He'll be like, everybody lies. Everybody, there's no, he'll say like, there's no such thing as like a person that helps without getting it in return. Basically, he would be like, no one ever helps, or no one ever does anything without like a reason behind what they're doing. And even the lead pastor tells you kind of like where his brain's at with that. And
because that's what he's doing.
Pretty pessimistic, to be quite frank, but it is similar to what they are doing with the congregation. And so like, it is possible for like pastors to lie and pastors to deceive and pastors to manipulate, and they aren't above the law and they aren't above God.
Yeah.
And just because they do lie and deceive and manipulate does not mean that that is what God intended. But it's just really important to kind of disentangle, kind of like, just because the gospel may be preached there doesn't mean that the actual testimony
Right.
or the purpose of that place is for the true gospel.
And even to use scripture about it is like Paul, because this is something that I preached about even when I was there. It's in Timothy, I believe, is Paul said, I want you to know me not by what I say, but who I am, by what I do.
Yeah.
And they do not have that testimony.
They do not have the by what we do testimony.
No, they'll say it.
They'll say it. They'll read it, but they will not do it.
And this goes back, I think, in one of our videos.
And they'll do the opposite.
Right, they'll do the opposite.
Yeah.
What you see on screen in the live streams or whatever, or what you don't even see in the Sunday night messages because they're not streamed. But whatever happens during service versus what happens in the circle after service, two completely different
things.
And so, yeah, that's how they use the gospel to sound good, but then live a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, well, again, we hope this is helpful for you to kind of see even the lies that they're saying or people are saying where you are, if they're saying these same similar things. And hopefully it can help you connect the dots and get out of a place like that. But
Watson's having zoomies.
Watson, our cat, is going crazy right now.
He's having zoomies right now.
But please subscribe, comment, like, follow, share, all of the above. We're over 100 subscribers, so we're really excited about that. I guess our next goal was what, 250? 200?
I don't know.
Let's go for 250.
Let's go for 250.
See if we can get 250 by the end of the year. That would be amazing.
That's going to be hard.
That's a big shot.
That's hard. I would shoot for 200.
Optimist over here.
Okay.
Well, thank you again, and we will see y'all next time.